Did a recent mergers and acquisitions announcement between a global fitness company and a nutritional supplement brand signal more lookalike activity could be ahead? Before I talk about what this could mean to the overall market, let's talk about the deal that I just referenced. It seems that this deal stayed relatively under the radar, but F45 Training acquired True Protein for an undisclosed amount. Just to give you guys a little bit of understanding of who F45 Training is, they are a fitness studio franchise that originally opened up in Australia about 10 years ago. The concept is based on a 45-minute workout session that comprises of high-intensity training, functional training, and then circuit training. They now have 1,750-ish global locations. About a half of them are in North America, and the first one opened up in the US market in 2015. In 2019, Mark Wahlberg kind of famously invested in F45 Training when the brand was looking for a buyout. Couldn't make a deal work. Mark Wahlberg stepped in, and the company has actually been rumored to potentially be going public at a $1.2 billion valuation through a SPAC merger. Now, True Protein is an Australian-based nutritional supplement brand that was founded in 2014. They sell in a number of different markets, Australia, New Zealand, and some of the Asian countries, and then also in the North American market. And they sell a number of products you consider in your typical range that are really centered around protein and protein-added products. So why did F45 Training make this mergers and acquisitions move? Now, obviously, a company like F45 Training could have their pick of the litter in terms of who they would want to acquire if they really wanted to make a splash in the supplement space. And they could have even looked really inside of the investment family, because Mark Wahlberg is a partner in a supplement brand called Performance Inspired Nutrition. So why did they make the move with True Protein? I don't think it's out of line to say that there is the Australian connection that had something to do with this acquisition. I also think the True Protein brand is really a basket brand that has a ton more potential in terms of how much farther they can expand their portfolio of products. The True Protein name is definitely something that's not polarizing at all, which I definitely think it makes for a safer integration for F45 Training. True Protein is not trying to be this like in-your-face lifestyle brand, which I think helps them in terms of not needing to compete against the kind of lifestyle fitness company like F45 Training. And just having protein in the brand name kind of helps in terms of like the protein halo effect that is the number one kind of easiest product to get people to be introduced to. So if F45 Training clients are really new into supplementation, this is an easy way for them to introduce those supplement newbies. And we'll see if their channel strategy ends up changing at all, and maybe they go into more of like a closed distribution network, really focused only on purchasing through the 1,700 plus locations and maybe through D2C, or if they look at this as something that could be run kind of outside of the F45 network from a distribution standpoint. They can continue to kind of do the stack it high and let it fly type distribution. It could be in maybe different retail markets, but we'll end up seeing maybe how F45 is going to approach maybe some of these acquisitions, because until this acquisition, at least from what I could see, they've only really made strategic partnerships with some of the kind of merchandise on the apparel side, maybe the footwear side. They've really partnered with another company, co-branded different products. This is definitely a different step on the strategic plan for F45 Training, and this will kind of tell us a lot about maybe what they're going to do in the future with similar acquisitions. So important maybe to look at, is there other similar deals that maybe F45 Training was looking at and saying, we could probably build something like this? I think probably the most similar mergers and acquisitions activity would be that last year OpenFit, which is a subsidiary of Beachbody, bought Ladder Supplements, which was the company that was founded by LeBron James and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And if you guys are not too aware of that transaction, I'll pop up the video for you guys here to watch that one that I made when that acquisition happened. And then what about maybe other similar inspirations that they could have in terms of maybe like fitness content, gyms, fitness equipment, plus supplement company? Maybe the most famous one in the market would be Beachbody, creating the brand Shakeology. But you also see some newer companies like Onnit pairing their supplements with both fitness equipment and fitness media. And Onnit was just acquired by Unilever. And then also TB12, which is owned by Tom Brady. That is more than supplements. That's a training protocol. That's a diet protocol. There's also some equipment and things that they have as well. And I'm sure there's a lot more examples out there if we're looking at maybe like fitness influencers that both have maybe fitness media or equipment and supplements they put together, and those being done a ton of different ways on a smaller scale. So what could be potentially next in the market? Could there be some inspiration that just happened with this move between F45 and True Protein with some of the much larger maybe fitness equipment companies, connected fitness companies? We're looking at things like Peloton or Mir, which is owned by Lululemon, or Tonal. Would they be inspired to make mergers and acquisitions activity, or maybe even internally creating and launching their own supplement brands? And since the combinations in terms of like gyms, fitness media, fitness equipment, brand options could be like endless, and I could come up with a ton of different things. This video would be too long. I'm gonna just stick to those main three that I just mentioned. So Peloton, Mir, and Tonal. And I don't want to spoil the rest of, I guess, the analysis in this video, but I think the odds of any of those three launching or purchasing a supplement brand is relatively low. But if we are looking at this from those three, the most likely, I think, would be Mir, which is owned by Lululemon. And that's mostly because of the Lululemon side. And in recent years, Lululemon has been expanding its lifestyle branding a little bit more outside of the core apparel and consumer groups that they originally went after. They also have launched some like non-consumable CPG products as well to kind of test those markets. I think that dabbling in merchandising and them just mentioning that they potentially could look at consumable products over some earnings calls and conference calls, I think that could potentially be something they look at. But I guess the next question to kind of consider is, would any of these companies, would they be looking at this from a buy perspective, build perspective, do it ourselves, or partnering? From the kind of buy side or the mergers and acquisitions activity side, I think Peloton really has been the company out of the three that has made the most deal-making moves. So if it was a company that was going to go out and purchase something, they probably have the most appetite to go out and purchase a supplement brand. And especially if they can find a talented team that they could potentially kind of acqui-hire out of it to really help them bridge the gap in terms of like the complexities in the supplement market. If we're looking at this from like an internal product development side, I think this would be best done by Mir or Lululemon. I think though all companies have massive amounts of data and they could do this themselves, I think Mir and Lululemon, it makes the most sense for them to do this. I don't think they would do it under the name Lululemon or Mir. I think they would do it as a totally different brand within their portfolio, and I think they would make sure that the products would fit well within the merchandising of their stores and be seamless in terms of using those hundreds of stores as a key part of their go-to-market strategy. And then on the strategic partnership side, and I'm talking more about like hands-on, not necessarily like licensing, this to me is probably the most likely way that any of these brands could get into the supplement market, picking a trusted brand partner that's probably vertically integrated, and this provides them the opportunity to test within their customers. They have a lower risk to see if their lifestyle branding extends into categories like that. Do they have the ability to have the authority with their customers in these areas that are outside of maybe the fitness training side of the health and fitness journey. And I guess another kind of even safer way to do this is what actually Equinox has done and looked at from like a curation standpoint, put their stamp of approval on a selection of different products within a ton of different categories. So a Peloton approved supplements maybe would be something that would be easiest for them, least risky for them to do something like that. They would obviously make the least amount of money, but ultimately I don't think that is really the decision maker in this process at all. So just looking at like why one of these three brands could potentially say yes, and I'm not necessarily saying that any of these brands couldn't do this successfully. I think all of them could do this successfully because they're all very talented teams. They've proven to be able to make consumer products that really hit consumers in their hearts and in their heads. They're really connected with these products. But why might they decide to do this? One is kind of what I was mentioning before. They have massive amounts of customer data to provide them the information they would need to make potentially a good acquisition move or potentially make something in-house that would really resonate with their consumers. They have highly engaged audiences that would likely be willing to try whatever these companies do recommend because they are trusted already along a part of their fitness and health journey. And if these companies could be trusted along more parts of the fitness and health journey, that just helps them even further. They have a ton of influencers kind of already baked in with their fitness instructors. Those fitness instructors have their own kind of audiences outside of the platforms as well, and that could provide them the ability to get these products maybe outside of their initial network. And there could be like a compelling story that could happen. Say you change a variable like adding supplements to your fitness exercise program, the connected fitness program that has a ton of like data integration and metrics already. You change a variable, that variable ends up helping you perform a lot better. I think then that is a really compelling story for them to utilize and say, hey, this does help X amount or Y amount. And I don't know exactly like structure function claims on that from a supplement standpoint, but I think you could potentially create some scientific studies and things that do support some of these things because they do have a lot of user metrics and variables they could test and utilize in this way. And this does provide another potential like subscription revenue thing that they could either use as a one-off or could be added into creating a stronger ecosystem value for like this overall subscription amount that is media plus product. Now, why might they not want to do a nutritional supplement brand or purchase one of them? And it might seem logical for them to go into this. I know I've heard a lot of people maybe mention, oh, this makes sense for them to do that. But what could be the potential downsides? I think a lot of this comes down for me like dilution of the brand, losing focus within the core team, the core product. These are tech companies at heart. Yes, they also, are media companies and they have hardware, but that lifestyle branding can go too far. You don't have the authority to talk about everything, and there could be some risk there. A shift into supplements really does change their business. Now, you could alleviate some of that with, like I was mentioning, with strategic partnerships, or if the mergers and acquisitions also has some like acqui-hire element to it. But there's definitely complexities in the supplement supply chain, and there's nuances within the regulatory environment that would be outside of the core competencies of these connected fitness companies. And then the size of the opportunity kind of compared to the complexity. If you think about this, these fitness companies, these connected fitness companies are doing upwards of billions of dollars in revenue. So if they were able to maybe acquire a supplement brand that is sizable, or they make one that's sizable and they do maybe $100 million in revenue, it's not all that big difference to these companies. It's really a rounding error for them. And for them to add a lot of their complexity into their business model would not necessarily maybe make all that much sense. And just finally, like, how does this discussion kind of fit into like the larger personalized nutrition future? In my opinion, companies like Peloton, Mir, and Tonal have something much more valuable to monetize that's kind of congruent to the supplement industry than actually launching a supplement brand. If they can continue to kind of focus on what they have been kind of doing, making sure that the company is providing engaging experiences that people want to continuously log in daily in, they then have very large data sets, rich customer data that would be an important part of the personalization equation that also includes just general health and nutrition. Eventually, one company is going to be able to put all of these pieces together, and they're going to pay up for access to this data or the company that owns those data. And when I'm thinking about like who could potentially do this, names like, Apple, Google, or kind of Alphabet company, or Amazon come to mind, because these are the types of companies that have endless supplies of money, they have endless team members, and they have the ability to handle the type of complexity needed to make this happen, which is really like unimaginable when you're kind of letting yourself think about it in today's terms. As we move away from some of these silos, when we're thinking about like data collection, you have a sleep app here, you have maybe Peloton there, you have a Fitbit there. These will begin to start to feed into each other. And nutrition, if we're looking at this from like the personalization equation with food, beverage, and nutritional supplements, this is likely the last domino to fall. And it's also probably the most impactful, but also the hardest to feed into the algorithms to get into this N1 type of personalized lifestyle. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.